Good afternoon and welcome to this week's episode of LevelUp Cyber Live. My name is Tony Bryan. I'm going to apologize in advance. Apparently my connection's not super great today, so we're gonna and get through it. But excited about today's discussion. I don't know about that I don't hear a reference or some sort of drop about the concept about AI. So this today. To talk about the work he's doing, give some thoughts. Before we get started, I'd love to have you introduce yourself. Thanks so much for joining. I'd love to have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Gerald Caussade. I'm CEO of SafeT, Inc. That's SAFET, no Y, or safety.com, and of our sister company as well, TechMe, which is an IT talent marketplace.
Nice. So how long have you been kind of playing around with this AI stuff? Give us some context around like how you got.
Yeah, how did I get into this? Well, okay, so it's going to take a few minutes here. So generally, I see myself as a visionary. I'm a visionary and serial entrepreneur. My junior year in college, I founded a company called United Networks in 1987, and a year later, it was pretty successful, and I raised $350,000 and acquired a software company, and renamed that to Clear Access Corp. But it turned out my junior year there, my professors were from Caltech and MIT, and an amazing group of professors that were working for that company that I acquired. So I had to learn how to delegate real quick. But the connection is that the product that we created was called Clear Access. And this was in 1989. We could bring data back from many different types of databases, DB2, Oracle, Informix, Sybase, all these different databases, and bring them into Excel and Word. That's 1989. So we were definitely bleeding edge and felt the pain. I sold that company for $5 million in 1994 to Sterling Software. While we had that company, we were already dabbling with neural networks, but back then the neural networks were just one layer of neural networks. They weren't these convolutional neural networks, CNNs, and other type of things, which is, let's say, like a Tesla uses, and other now we use many layers of these neurons, and that was the next stage, a major stage of AI. And then finally, now the latest versions of AI that we're all hearing about is these large language model, our reinforcement learning type of transformers. So that's the stages. And so when I sold Clear Access, my next step in the evolution, now, first of all, business intelligence, that term came up around 1994, because when I sold out, there were some other exits as well, the VCs, and everyone realized, hey, this is a big market. And business intelligence, Tony, as you can imagine, that's when we're using the human intelligence. So in cybersecurity, obviously, we all kind of use some type of business intelligence tools, whether we're looking at large databases of CVEs or a lot of data. It's the intelligence of the analyst is the AI. It's not AI, it's real intelligence. And you're running reports and doing the kind of analysis. The problem is, of course, is the inherent bias and knowledge of the analyst. So the next step in AI, I took when I sold my company, as many entrepreneurs do, I moved to Costa Rica and co-founded a company there with a bunch of PhDs. They were already working on something. And Dr. Carlos Araya and others had their PhDs in artificial intelligence here from the United States, returned to Costa Rica, and founded a company called Art and Soft. And they made me CEO because of my exit there and for a while, and I helped them grow that company. And it's artificial intelligence software, Art and Soft. We created some software and they programmed it, and I helped build the organization. And that is the next an interesting stage of AI as well. That's when they were using Lisp and other technologies to write code that they focused on migrating old computer languages to new computer languages. And at that time, within 2 years later, Microsoft, Tom Button, who reported to Bill Gates, just came out with something called .NET. They were looking for the best tools out there, AI, that could automatically migrate old computer languages to .NET. they ended up looking all around the world and licensed our tech for $21 million, which for a startup, you can imagine, in Costa Rica, much less, was amazing and put us as the number one tool in that area. Fast forward, I went ahead and founded SafeT over 10 years ago. Also, then my next step in AI was somebody that Dr. Carlos Araya mentored, Dr. Arnoldo Mueller, founded a company called Sim Machines. That's when I got my expertise, and everyone should know about this terminology. His focus was on creating explainable AI, or XAI, not to be confused with the new XAI by Elon Musk. Explainable AI is technology that not only is it AI, but will tell you why it made the decision. What data did it use to make the decision? And that is important, particularly in military use cases and in healthcare. So we won some amazing contracts with Dr. Arnoldo Mueller, and I'm working right now on some new technologies that I'll mention that he and I are focused on to help organizations implement large language models safely. So we're almost there now. So XAI is explainability. That's actually important now in the large language model. And let's see. So, yep. And we just sold Artensoft, which we renamed to Mobilize.net, to Snowflake, a major company, public company, in February. So I actually do have an exit that was many times more than the original license. And now we're looking at the next things to do. So this is perfect timing, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you about all this.
Sounds like you have a lot going on, which is exciting. And I think the one thing that I know comes up time and time again around the concept of AI is like, is this something we should or should not be afraid of? Right? There's the robots are going to take over. All these bad things, and there's also positive things of this. What's your hot take on, is this an area of concern, or should we be concerned around, the emergence of AI?
Yeah, that's it. There's this term accelerationist versus, the end of the world concept. I absolutely am in the Elon Musk camp of that. We have to take this very seriously. But that means that the chance is low, but it exists. Absolutely. If you know how these algorithms work, there are emergent properties is the right word to use. Emergent properties we didn't expect when these LLMs were programmed. Sam Altman's from St. Louis, by the way, went to school and high school and all that here. The founder of OpenAI and ChatGPT. Basically, they're seeing emergent properties that they didn't program. That is alarming, but cool, super cool. So we have to, just like what we do in cybersecurity, we have to manage the risk by admitting that it may be there. That's it. That's my take on it. So yes, those robots, all the things we've seen in the movies are all possible. But I want to let your viewers walk away from this talk a little today about some practical things we can do right now to protect ourselves.
Yeah. What advice would you give for that? What for the protection side of it? Let's just jump into that. It's a great segue.
Okay. Well, first of all, before we talk about that, let's just say to know how to protect ourselves, let's review. A bunch of viewers might already know how these LLMs work, ChatGPT work, very high level. What happened was, we have these neural networks, like Tesla's work with those neural networks who program with that, and they're doing amazing things, and a lot of technology has been based on that. However, suddenly the transformer network type has come about, and these large language models. The brilliance that made ChatGPT work, part of it is there's reinforcement learning, and then there's the human feedback portion. And they basically trained the system to teach itself how to respond like a human would expect. That's a really high level way of saying it, but that's reinforcement learning, human feedback. You'll see that, RLHF. That's where some of the weaknesses can also happen, is right even when somebody's starting to use a large language model. And your viewers, some of them are going to be in organizations where they're going to start deploying their own open source models and training them. But the first vector of attack is even just getting data in there, just secretly putting data in there that could train the system to do bad things. That's just a high level, but just to recognize that that's one vector of attack is just the data to train your LLM, our large language model. The human feedback portion, by the way, is really cool, because when you're using ChatGPT, it's creepy how almost it seems like it's aware, right? And can talk, but that was programmed that way. And there's whole white papers on how that's done. But practically speaking, let me get right down to the fundamental concern I would want everyone to understand is that there are already rogue large language models on the dark web. Some of them have been stolen, but there's also open source technology. Hugging Face, has different technology. Llama, there's plenty of open source technology you can use. And there's already been announced that there's a version of and I don't know, Tony, have you seen the announcement on this? But it's so new, and there is a large language model that has been trained on all the data that it could find on the dark web. That's pretty amazing. So now the knowledge of all that data on the dark web, and a black hat hacker can use that and ask it questions on literally. So this is what you need to expect. You're in cybersecurity. What I would be doing right now is you're doing your normal CVSS concept, right? Common vulnerability scoring system standards and all that. But now what you have to add to that also is, as soon as you can get access to one of these evil LLMs, just like you're looking for vulnerabilities using vulnerability scanners and all that, you're going to have to ask one of those evil LLMs. You're going to have to pretend you're a black hat hacker and say, hey, I am in this organization, give it some kind of description of the network a bit, right? But that you think a black hat hacker would have, and then ask it, how should I break in? And by the way, number one, phishing campaigns. We are going to see a level of sophistication on phishing campaigns that is scary. So we need to be better prepared right away, because these LLMs are able to get all this information about your organization that's public, right? Scraping LinkedIn and all these things about your executives, and create a story that is so realistic and prepared for creating an amazing phishing campaign, new level of that. But the other thing is that also that would be only one of maybe 20 items that one of these evil LLMs will tell the hacker how to step-by-step break into an organization. So in summary, find the latest versions of these LLMs, and I bet you it's going to become a specialty in itself. I certainly intend to look at it more. Use it to hack yourself, right? And that's your white hat hacker pretending to be a black hat.
A lot of moving pieces in there. And I think my connection leveled itself out. Yeah, but that's there's a lot of I think do you feel like the fear of the unknown, right, of this scary thing is warranted and justified, or do you feel like we need to trust the powers that be in some of this creation of future AI technology?
Well, okay, so you're going back up to high level. So generally, look, high level, no, I don't believe it's just a game that's being played by Sam and others to just control things. There needs to be, there's huge potential for disruption here. I mean, there will be disruption. It's starting to happen. And the attacks are going to happen on our infrastructure because of this. And it's not going to require a sophisticated hacker. They're going to be able to use one of these LLMs. Okay. So yes, look, the danger is very real. We're not 1 year away from, most likely, from general AGI, artificial general intelligence. I also agree that we may be as close as 5 years, though, to AGI, where the computer is as smart as you are, if as a human, as one individual. But it's one individual that has access to the entire internet of knowledge. That's crazy, Tony, right? That's pretty amazing. And then the next step is, of course, the singularity is when it can program itself to improve its own subroutines so rapidly that it becomes super powerful. And that's what Elon and others are worried about. And the possibility very much exists. In fact, Tony, if you think about it, the smartest thing, if it's smart, and it probably is, it will not announce itself. It will quietly allow itself to get better and better and better and become more intelligent. So it would be potentially too late. But the danger is between now, Tony, and then. How do your cybersecurity experts prepare for that? And again, it's preparing for even far more sophisticated phishing campaigns, far more, as we already know, some of these technologies creating deep fake videos and things like that, which again could even do deep fake live video of you talking with somebody on Zoom. And I mean, you're going to have to stay, if you're into cybersecurity, you're going to have to learn how this AI is used. And ultimately, Tony, one of the interesting aspects of this is going to be, I believe the trend is going to be that we're all going to need our own little AI engine that's protecting our own company, but ourselves. And I don't know how that's going to play out, but it's almost like a firewall. You're going to have your own AI firewall protecting you.
Yeah, it's been an interesting just experiment for me to see the normal apps, right? We use HubSpot and other things, and even Gmail, right? Like the amount of companies that are just throwing in, want to use AI, click a button. Do you want us to write an email for you? So like I for all of the positive things, I know I use ChatGPT quite a bit. There's a lot of good practical functionality of some of these things that it's doing. But I feel like there's always a cost, right? Who's the man behind the box? So we did have 2 questions come in, so I want to make sure we cover these. So Stephen Dillard asked the question you alluded to earlier around some of the phishing attempts. Have you seen some of those, and can you dive a little bit deeper of maybe some of the tactics you've seen? I'm expanding on his question to add a little more flavor to it. So we'll start there. Have you seen some of the phishing attempts you were talking about, and what have those looked like?
No, I wouldn't know. The phishing attempts I've seen now are more sophisticated than ever before. I think it's literally in the last 3 to 4 weeks that these technologies are coming out and being made available. So it's not going to, I think you have only a month or two to get a handle on this. It's the general, to answer the question, generally, as you're seeing, the phishing attempts are becoming far more sophisticated. You're not necessarily, you're seeing smishing, phishing, vishing. I mean, it's very sophisticated attacks that they're using video and maybe, QR codes. They look more and more realistic. So the trend that I have seen is that they're becoming more realistic with less typos, because again, the LLM, right, as you can imagine, ChatGPT, but an evil version is going to develop this and be much more clear without the mistakes. And so that's what you're going to start seeing. And I have started seeing that, but I can't guess whether it was an LLM doing it.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense. And there was 2 other questions. Oh, 2 more questions. So I'm gonna skip Hannes. I hope I'm saying that right. His first question, but Stephen also asked what is some ways that somebody could go get educated on AI, right? Like I am AI oblivious. I have no idea, but I want to have a better understanding of, how to use it, how to go. What would you recommend?
Yeah. Well, look, I know the timing of this conversation was early. We're still ramping up here, but hey, follow me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and other places. We have a conference coming out on the October 11th, 12th and 13th. We've announced it internally to our partners and all. We've been asked to do this. And we will be talking about these various things. It's a regional conference in the Midwest, but people will be joining us from nationwide. And the keynote speaker is Michael Vassar. Michael Vassar was the president of the Singularity Institute and raised $500 million from Peter Thiel. He is the keynote going to be at our conference in October here at T-Rex, by the way. So we are, but unfortunately, we're about another week away of announcing the details. So follow me and you'll find out more. Having said that, look, Google's your friend. Just look up. Okay, one place to look up is just look up OWASP LLM security. OWASP is trying to stay ahead of this. So one place to look is OWASP. They've done a great job in other things, and they're trying to stay ahead of this. I'm even further ahead. They can't. They're an organization. They can't keep ahead on this too much. But the other point I'm telling you, and we'll be publishing this, and of course, Tony, I'll let you know too, is the details of how to get these LLMs and everything, because it's going to be a toolkit. The black hats are using them. The white hats have to use the same thing. So we need to know that we need and use the same tools that the black hat hackers are using.
Man, that makes a ton of sense. You think you get ahead of somebody who's doing nefarious things and they're one step ahead of you, right? So they have a tendency to be there. All right, so 2 more questions. So Hannes asked, do you believe that the potential like massive job replacement in AI is real, or is it overstated? I get asked that question a lot as well.
We do. Absolutely. The disruption is going to be incredible. So don't get too worried about political conversations with your friends on the future of socialism versus everything else, because this is so disruptive. The question is just when. So prepare yourself, learn about AI. The first phase is AI is a great assistant. For those who learn how to use it, I think this makes sense to you too, right, Tony? We're already using it. Those of us that aren't scared of it, use it, learn ChatGPT. By the way, let's mention some of the other ones. Of course, there's Bard, there's Claude 2. A lot of people don't know about Claude 2 from Anthropic. Highly recommend looking that up. Of course, Bard is the Google one. So these 3 main ones, and then some internal ones to develop for your own organization. But the key disruption is going to be that the people who are not particular, well, there's 2 types of things that are going to happen. The really good experts are going to take this information and make sure that what the AI adds isn't hallucinating. That is one of the side effects, as we know. It doesn't give a right answer, and it looks like it does. An expert can see that right away. But boy, Tony, you've seen this too. It's so much easier to develop a big plan or do a lot of deep thinking and then just correct where it's kind of wrong and add your own information, right? So those who can do that will have a few years run. But over time, more and more jobs are going to be completely replaced by this AI. It's hard to determine where. I mean, where I think most everyone was completely wrong. We could still be wrong. Is that I think we all admit that we thought creativity was the last thing to go, and it turns out it's one of the first areas. So if you're not a great graphic artist and you're doing just quick stuff, your job has already been replaced a lot of times. However, if you're really good, you're using it as a tool to improve on your work, and then you're able to do more work more quickly.
I had watched a video the other day where somebody had taken an AI machine, took episodes of South Park, right, threw it into the system, and that thing it came up with endless opportunities and simulated verbatim with voices and characters and illustrations an entirely new series of South Park, right? Like that was funny, and I carried on with the trend just because I had enough data behind it, right? And I know, we've all seen the SAGs and the AFTRAs and the strikes, right? Like this is a huge moment in time for us with the enhancement of AI, specifically for Hollywood and writing for this. Like
Absolutely.
you mentioned it, the creative side of this stuff, of how much it takes. It could diminish art in Hollywood and media. So I had never really thought about it that way, just because it's not a world I live in. I think of it more of just jobs, but that's a big implications there for sure.
Yeah, and I should say, with Arnoldo Mueller and all that, right now we're rolling out into testing and working with organizations on a firewall, so to speak, for an LLM. So a lot of organizations, Tony, are completely blocking them. Let's say healthcare and others, because the problem is if you're using ChatGPT at work, right? Part of the issue is you send it data so it can answer the question. It might send source code or some other information. And then it remembers that and can share that with others. So So that data leakage is a big problem. So a lot of organizations are completely closing off, but that's a problem because it can also help make your employees more productive. So one of the things that my teams that are, again, PhDs are the kind of people that can write an LLM, but they're focusing on solving some of the problems. So one of the short-term problems that we're solving is allowing you to allow ChatGPT, but it's a firewall that won't allow data that's specific to your organization to be sent to ChatGPT. So if it's source code or other things, and it gets techie on how we do that, but it's a neat, and think of it as a firewall kind of, right? And it's also the same thing that ChatGPT doesn't return data that you don't want to see in your organization. So again, you're going to start seeing solutions, and your cyber guys are probably going to be the ones that, hey, this is some new kind of firewall. What do you think? That's the next round of kind of the technology is we need to use ChatGPT and these other tools, but we need to do it in a safe manner. And I'm looking at solving that. Another one is going to be where the cyber guys are going to get involved is potentially internally, some of your organizations are going to want to create their own custom one with their own data, right? So take your own data, and it's going to be able to answer questions about how to do your sales. I mean, it's very specific. And because of our background in XAI explainability, the ones that we're working with on organizations are able to tell you why, what data did it use to bring back that answer. And that's really important in some cases. And then finally, I work with you, Tony, and others, but our team is working with basically consulting packages and helping executives and all that get a handle on how does AI affect them? What tools should they be using? What and we don't work for Microsoft or Google or anything. We're open to all of them, and it really takes PhDs that know mathematics because you can look at how these different things perform, but you need some deep mathematical knowledge to pick which one works best for your organization.
Yeah, I know I think for Tech STL, I think we're looking at a fall event around here in St. Louis around AI to have a little bit deeper dive, get some kind of national speakers to come in and do it. Because it's not a week doesn't go by that it's not brought up, or honestly, a day doesn't go by that it's brought up. And I think it's the fear of the unknown, right? Like it seems that I think, for me, it feels very convenient. All the uses that and used it has been fantastic, right? It helps with policies and procedures and writing and social media content. And I know I've scratched the surface with AI, where there's so much more to go. But what is it? What's the old saying? Too much of a good thing is sometimes bad. So I have my skeptic hat on that there's something behind it is gonna the table, the cards will fall. But we have 2 minutes left and one question, so we might go over just a little bit. But Hannes asked the question regarding kind of fake videos and AI, right? I feel like there's, and especially in today's world of conspiracy theories and all the different craziness that's going on, the timing of this is great, right? Like what is there ways to figure out, is it fake? Is it real? Like what, I haven't seen much of that come out, right? We're hearing about it, but how do you figure out what that is, and what are the implications that come along with that?
I didn't memorize it. I've seen the announcements of tools that, yes. So at this point for today's conversation, the tools you'll have to look at, Google again, your friend, is there are tools that are being designed to determine whether something is fake. Of course, who's going to use those and how reliable they are, I don't know. But yes, the tools are out there. Needless to say, imagine, on election day, if some bombshell type of fake video comes out, right? It's inevitable that it's going to happen, and they're going to look really real. Right now, already, just so you know, I just was seeing that there are thousands of fake bimbo accounts. I'm sorry, that's fake influencer accounts on Instagram generated by AI with people starting to follow them, and they're hackers who have created thousands of fake influencer accounts, and it's completely made up individual, and just for looks. And so that is already happening, and these people don't realize that they're following a completely generated AI thing, but maybe each one only gets thousands of followers, but very rapidly, and they can roll them up into a huge base. So it's starting to happen. There are tools coming out, yeah, there's no good answer. But I'll close up with saying that the way, Tony, we're going to see this roll out, the way I see it is that reality is going to get a little bizarre. You're going to see these tools generating text, video, but then also virtual reality. It's all interconnected. So it's going to be able to generate the video, the sound, and you can be able to go into the virtual reality. And it's just like out of the movies. The question is, over the years now, how good is all that going to be? And so a ChatGPT will be able to generate all of that, and you'll be able to go into a complete virtual reality with all of that and be able to explore. And the question of what's real and what's not real is going to become more and more interesting.
I watched the show Silicon Valley. I don't know if you watched that show or not, on HBO, or I'm sorry, Max now. And it was great. I learned a lot about Series A, Series B funding in that show. Yeah. But I also learned about, bot farms, in foreign countries where they were trying to drive the valuation of their company up and outsourcing users to, countries that had good, infrastructure, whether it's India or wherever it was at, and they were paying hundreds upon hundreds of people to create user accounts to bolster their numbers. And it's crazy. I don't know. It was a mind-blowing thing where now I'm sure AI could probably do that in a click of a button, just to, write a script that says, make this code and do it. So, all right, last question. Everybody gets the same one. I feel like I'm a little bit like Dave Portnoy, and, everybody knows the rules, one bite per, but, what advice would you give to folks to level up their careers or cyber careers?
Yeah, I think I basically answered that. And look, absolutely learn what an LLM is, learn the high level of how they work, get to start learning these new tools, the evil LLMs, look those up, get to learn how to use them, because it's going to be part of a vulnerability assessment. Now, that might be another team, but they're going to be working with you as a cyber team. And finally, so if you want to level up, you're going to be asked, how does this AI affect you? I and other resources will be available, and just stay on top of it. But again, learn the latest tools, the evil LLMs, how they generally work. Go look up OWASP, and they'll already get you on that journey.
Big fan of OWASP. I know St. Louis, if you're here locally, Joe Blanchard has led OWASP here. And I know he's getting the band together. COVID has changed a lot of the meetup space, and everything's gone virtual. And I just feel like some of that community oriented stuff has gone away. So I think there's pockets of people trying to bring that back. But Gerald, I appreciate the time today. I really appreciate the insight on a topic that I think is near and dear to everybody's heart, whether it's fear or excitement. I don't know, it seems to be a little bit of both, but
absolutely it is.
Appreciate you joining us. I appreciate the insight. For those that are tuning in next week, we've got a great guest, Edgar Acosta out of Denver, Colorado. I'm excited to share some time with him. We're diving a little bit deeper, so that'll get posted today. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining the show. Gerald, thank you very much. And everybody have a great afternoon.
Yeah, have a great week, everyone. Take care.